Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. In this week's video, we're going to touch on a few topics. We're going to look at October sales activity and numbers as it compares to last year in Vancouver real estate. We're going to touch a little bit on the election results, and we're also going to talk about what the federal Conservatives are planning for housing in Canada if they win the next federal election. Real quick, if this is your first time to the channel, my name is Hassan. I'm a real estate agent in the Vancouver area, and I make educational real estate content to help you on your real estate journey. When I'm not making videos like this, I'm helping people just like you buy and sell real estate across the Lower Mainland. So if that sounds interesting to you and you wanted to chat with me one-on-one about your real estate situation, you can book me for a free call in the Calendly link below and on screen, and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss a future video. All right, I hope you had a wonderful week. We're gonna hop right into this. Let's quickly touch on the election results. Last time I did a video last week, we didn't quite have them, and in fact, it took over a week to get the final results. That's how close the election was here in BC. Turns out NDP is forming a majority government, so the incumbent sticks around. Not going to talk too much about policies, what they may be planning moving forward. I think we're gonna really see in Q1 what they have policy-wise, what they have planned for what they want to roll out through the year of 2025. But there is one thing I do want to touch on with their existing policy is transit-oriented development. The reason I wanted to talk about this and to briefly summarize what transit-oriented development is it calls for specific building heights, minimum building heights for Metro Vancouver cities, as well as what we call FSR, so square footage of what you can build when you are in close proximity to rapid transit or SkyTrain, basically up to 800 meters, and then it shaves down. There's different segments, 0 to 200. You can build higher, you can build more. And so this is a blanket policy that the provincial government rolled out again to Metro Vancouver cities. The reason I want to touch on this is Burnaby City Council a couple times now have outright rejected transit-oriented development policy. And the reason they did this the second time is they wanted to see, this was just a couple weeks ago, they wanted to see what would happen with the election and see whether either the BC Conservatives would, take that policy and get rid of it, which the BC Conservatives were saying a lot of the NDP policies they were going to strip out and pull away. So they were waiting for that, but they were also waiting to see whether the NDP themselves might actually scale back that policy or change it as well. Look, I did a video, a short form video where I said, look, leave Burnaby alone. I think Burnaby should have the ability, and certain other cities should have the ability to run their own cities when it comes to housing development. Got a lot of comments, both left and right, people calling me a NIMBY, thinking that, I'm against development. I look at a city like Burnaby, and for me, I think that's a city that's doing things right, personally. If Burnaby was a city that was not doing high-density development, was not a leader in high-density development, and they were, strictly keeping all of their areas for single-family, they weren't actually, doing their part to help the housing crisis, I think that would be a different story. But, I don't think we can really fault Burnaby for, wanting to maintain certain areas of their city, for example, North Burnaby, wanting to maintain some of that, especially because they have so many SkyTrain stops along Lougheed. So this transit-oriented development would really change the scope of the north part of Burnaby. And so I just said I don't think we can blame Burnaby at all, and we can't really look at Burnaby and say they're not doing their part. We have an 80-story tower coming. We have a 73-story tower coming in Burnaby, tallest in Western Canada. So they are literally the leaders, I would say, when it comes to high-density development, not just in Brentwood, Metrotown area, Edmonds, lots of high density, while at the same time maintaining some of the most green space per capita out of all cities in North America. I think we need to protect that. And this is, for me, this is where blanket policies, you can really see the warts when a blanket policy is thrown out there, it's rushed, it's put onto multiple cities. Vancouver even looks to Burnaby as a role model for how they should densify. And there's other cities like Vancouver that need to step up their densification measures. So, when I look at it, I look at a city like Burnaby, they're doing things right. Not even to mention on the small scale multi-unit, so on the multiplex style zoning, Burnaby is one of a handful of cities, or even less than that, that has been very proactive and very open-minded to small-scale multiplex housing. The policies and the zoning that they've been able to adjust themselves under the provincial policy, they've opened it right up. So they're one of the most forthcoming and open for business, if you will, cities out there when it comes to multiplex. So again, this is not a city that is opposing development in any way. This is a city that, yeah, they want to have single family area, or they want to have lower density area. They want to have high density area as well. And, you know, when you take a blanket policy and you put it on a city that's already doing so well, it's like in high school, if you gave your straight A student, if you gave them detention and made them stay after class with everyone else, I don't know, not that I'm saying Burnaby needs to be rewarded, but I think you know, we should be looking at what they are doing as one example, how they are building a true city while also staying focused on housing crisis and making sure they're leading in high density. You know, I think that we need to commend that, and we don't need to take a blanket policy and just place it on everyone, even the cities that are doing well. All right, gonna shift gears to what we're seeing sales data wise. As I record this video, it's Halloween today, it's October 31st. I don't have all the data, but if you've been watching my videos for some time, especially over the last month or two, you've been noticing me say that sales activity has definitely been heightened. There's a lot more buyer showings happening, a lot more deals getting put together, a lot of listings that have been sitting there for 30, 60 days now getting offers on them, some properties now getting multiple offers on them. As we sit today, we are at approximately, across the Real Estate Board of Greater Vancouver, approximately 2,600 sales, and that does not include sales from today. Last year in October, we did less than 2,000. So once we get the final numbers, which we'll be able to talk about in next week's video, we are going to be significantly up sales-wise year over year. We've also done more sales in October than we did in September, so month over month sales-wise we're going to be up. New listings will also be up year over year quite significantly, but the activity is happening. What I can't share with you right now is the actual prices. I know that's one of the most important parts that you want to know about. I don't have that data quite yet. We'll have it again for next video, but absolutely the market is more active. I've said in previous videos, I don't believe that this is a sign of prices skyrocketing. I think inventory that's sitting there, it's finally getting eaten up, it's getting sold. The inventory that's at the right price, that is all moving now. When I find listings out there, and if I take a look at it and I say, I'm a little bit surprised that that's still available, I place a call to the agent, turns out it's actually not available. So these properties that are well priced, well marketed, they are moving. The sales data is going to show sales up significantly year over year, up month over month as well. You know, I truly believe that this November is going to be busier than Novembers we've seen in the past, just based on the trajectory of the consultations we're having. There will be some more activity. Generally speaking, it dies down November, December. I think it's going to be, you know, a little bit busier than we expect here in the winter months. So in other big news this week, the federal Conservatives, Pierre Poilievre, came out with a pledge for if they are to win the next election. And what they plan to do is they plan to remove the GST on all new homes under $1 million right across the country. And so, you know, this is a policy that has legs. This is obviously going to help the first-time home buyer. Depending on where you are across this country, it's going to have a greater effect, right? For us, for example, here in Vancouver, if you're looking at Vancouver proper, for instance, there's not a ton you can get new build-wise under $1 million. There's some stuff, but you know, definitely in the Fraser Valley, there's going to be a lot of options over there, especially condos, where buyers, any buyer can basically purchase a brand new build under $1 million. They're not going to have to pay the GST. Here provincially, how that would line up is, you know, we have exemptions on property transfer tax as well, and they've recently been adjusted for new builds as well. So if we look, for example, at, say, a $900,000 property, when you factor in, if you are eligible for the exemptions on property transfer tax and the GST, when you factor that all in, you're saving $60,000 in taxes. And if you're unfamiliar with how it works, the GST portion, of course, you can pay that at completion, but you can also roll that into your mortgage if you like. So you're paying that over the amortized loan. The property transfer tax is something you had to pay in full at completion. So it's significant. This is a significant change. Again, it's going to affect other cities, provinces more than ourselves. Perhaps here in BC, I'm sure if you're in Alberta, they don't have PTT there anyways. Now no GST on new builds. And what Poilievre believes is, what he's saying is that this is going to amount to 30,000 new homes being constructed each year, and that the GST was never meant to be applied to basic necessities like food and shelter. So that's the whole premise behind it. When we look at it from, I guess, like a greater scope, a more deeper scope, why? Why are we actually going down this route? And, this is a policy to incentivize the builders. I want to say to continue to build, but more so to start building again. If we look across the country, shovels have been pulled out of the ground all over the place. Here in Vancouver, so many pre-sale projects that either don't hit their minimum, that don't come to fruition, don't make it to development, all of the rising costs. Housing starts dropping year over year. This is alarming. This is alarming not just for the province, but federally. And so I think we're going to start to see more of these policies that are designed to basically incentivize the developer to build further and keep building. Now, in the past, when we've had interest rates lower and so some of the costs were decreased for these developers to build, we also had immigration skyrocketing. We had our population growth, one of the highest out of all of the G7 countries. But now there's been announcements that Canada's completely overhauling the immigration system, reducing the amount of permanent residents they're going to allow next year, over the next 2 years, and immigration in general, where our population is actually potentially set to decline over the next couple of years. So while these incentives are good, if you're a builder, and you're looking at the environment, I don't know how excited you are to build into a country where the economy is flat. Some would say declining. Population growth is set to decline again over the next couple of years. That doesn't really excite me. I need to be incentivized with some sort of policies that make development a little bit more safe. So we have the 30-year amortizations I just recently did a video on, which again increases that buying power for first-time buyers and those buying new developments. It increases the buying power, which ultimately push prices up. And even this GST policy, someone asked me a good question. I was chatting with them this last week about it. They said, well, what does this mean for resale homes? Is it going to decrease the value of resale homes? And ultimately, this GST savings, if you look at it that way, it's going to get absorbed by the price, by that new build price. So the new build becomes more expensive. And if demand increases for the new build because people are saving the GST, it's going to lift the floor of the resale product. Everything is based on deltas, right? You have a specific delta between a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom unit. And when the delta gets a little too small, if you will, people jump up to the next product and the market kind of evens itself out. So if you have a resale property, it's not necessarily that yours is going to be devalued. Demand for these new builds are going to increase. The price is going to get baked in. The savings is going to get baked in. And so this ultimately is going to push the floor price of real estate up. And if we go back to what I was just saying, how this is meant to incentivize developers, what is going to incentivize a developer that they can actually have margins again on their build is if the price of real estate goes up. So there you have it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. If you did, hit the like button, because what that does is it takes the video and it sends it out to more people so they can also learn from it. If you think someone else would enjoy watching the video, share it with them as well. And again, if you're in the Vancouver area or the Fraser Valley, you wanted to chat with me about your real estate situation, my contact info is in the description box below. You can just give me a call, send me a text, shoot me an email, whatever works. I would love to chat with you, but I want to thank you again for staying tuned to this week's video, and I look forward to seeing you next week.